Hello everybody, welcome to another great episode of Hillbilly Select Reviews. Today we are doing Korbel Brut Rosé Champagne. Yes, I said champagne even though it's made in California. Why did I do that? Because the Treaty of Versailles of 1919, when the U.S. was in Prohibition, was never ratified by the U.S. and part of that treaty was that champagne would only be labeled champagne if grown in France in the Champagne region using the Champagne method. If it was made in the Champagne region with grapes grown in the Champagne region using the traditional Champagne method, all right? Champenoise is what that's called. It's where you ferment the wine in the bottle that it's served in, all right? You make regular wine, you put it in a champagne bottle, you add yeast and sugar and capture one of the byproducts of that yeast eating the sugar, which is carbon dioxide. Now, most traditional champagnes are made with Pinot Noir, Pinot Noir, and Chardonnay. There's a few others, but that's almost the main three. What's cool and interesting about this California champagne or sparkling wine is that it uses Pinot Noir, which is traditional, Sangiovese, which is not, Gamay, and Chenin Blanc, a white grape. The other three are red. Very interesting mix. This is 12% ABV. Each varietal adds a little something. What's cool about this winery I've been at here, and when you go wine tasting, they always give you a little bit, you know, to try and just to make sure you can taste it. Maybe they get 3 or 4, 5 if you're lucky. In this one, it was like 3 or 4 different champagnes, but they filled the flute to the top. I thought that was very interesting and very generous, and I appreciated that. So the reason they could call it champagne, I guess I didn't get into it. So we didn't ratify that, but we came to agreement in 2006, and in the agreement, the U.S. said anybody who has not labeled their product champagne on the label, has not called it champagne, prior to March 10th, 2006, cannot do it in the future. But anybody who has is grandfathered in. Korbel being one of the ones grandfathered in. Cook's, a very inexpensive champagne or sparkling wine, being another. Okay, that's the rules. Like it, don't like it, that's what it is. This was started, this company, in 1882 by Czech brothers, the Korbel brothers. It has since been sold, this and that and other. But let's see how it is, all right? And don't be afraid to use champagne, all right, with food. I do it all the time. It's great. I love it with seafood. It's great with salty food. Of course, champagne, you know, comes in different sweetnesses. And so depending on the sweetness, go with the food. But you can Google that. Sweeter champagnes go with spicier foods, Asian foods, so on and so forth. Just delicious, man. I used to open champagne all the time, bottles like this with lunch, which would be like stuffed clams. I love that. It was so good. Anyway, this little top on this little bottle here was just this. Opened it with a can opener, right? So when they do this traditional method here on this champagne, it takes some of the color out, the second fermentation. So what they do is they add a little red wine back into it to give it a little sweetness and a little color after it's finished. And that's a common practice. Mostly how you get rosé wine is you use a red grape and you leave it in contact with the skin long enough to get whatever color you want. But then when they ferment it, it takes some of that color out, so they add, which is another way, blending red and white wine is another way to get rosé. So yeah, like I say, if you're not drinking champagne more, you know, other than on holidays, right, New Year's, so on and so forth, and for celebrations, you're really doing yourself a disservice. If you have a wine party or anything else, dinner party, at least serve it as people are coming in to kind of stimulate their appetite and get them loosened up a little bit. It's another great use of champagne. I love it. I use it all the time. It's a wonderful, wonderful wine. What a beautiful smell. Now, this California champagne, or sparkling wine, has to go up against a lot of, you know, cavas and Spanish and Italian, which are inexpensive sparkling wines. But I like the company. I think they do a fine job. This has a beautiful smell to it. All those wines they blended in. Just a beautiful smell of flowers and red fruit, mainly strawberry, but I could see where you might get raspberry or cherry. Different people, but should be within that ballpark. Got a beautiful flavor to it. Brut, it's supposed to be one of the driest versions, even drier than extra dry. Why? Because why not make stuff complicated as you can? Does it make sense that extra dry would be the driest? Of course it does. But then again, it wouldn't be the wine world. Anyway, but this is a little sweeter because they add, even though they got Brut on there, I think I said Brut on there, they do add a little of that red wine to bring that color back and add a little bit of sweetness to it. It's very fruity. The first thing you taste is sweetness. It's in the front of the tongue. So the bubbles, the effervescence, the always makes it champagne taste clean and cleanses the palate. It's just this is good. It's not got a lingering aftertaste. It's clean. It ends quickly, but you get the sweetness, you get the fruit, and then you swallow, and it's like a dryness where the wine just kind of disappears on you. So very pleasant, very easy to drink. Since it's a rosé, it would go good with a lot of different types of food. I think this would hold up to anything where a rosé would go. So it would go with, and this is would certainly go with anything salty, like any kind of ham. Would go with any seafood, in my opinion. I think things with a little bit of fat and stuff, because that acidity and that carbonation cut through. You experiment a little bit. But don't be afraid of it. Do not be afraid of champagne. It's a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful expression. And I hope you all enjoyed this. Once again, attached to this video in several places, I will have my champagne playlist. Please check it out. And don't forget to subscribe. And I, my friends, will see you on the next one. Now, I go all the way from the lowest price champagne all the way on up. I got some great ones coming down the pike here that I'm going to be doing, and everything in between. So check it out, and I'll see you on the next one.